Hello, I'm Arafat, I'm in the UK.
And I'm Mohammed, and I'm in the US.
And you're listening to Slow Pit Stop.
Hello and welcome to Slow Pit Stop, the international Formula 1 podcast by fans for fans all around the world. My name's Arafat, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Mohammed. Say hi, Mohammed.
Hi, Mohammed. Finger guns.
Finger guns. We have a great episode for you today. We're halfway between the Imola Grand Prix and the Monaco Grand Prix. One is a motorcycle circuit where it's difficult to overtake. The other one is an ancient city where it's also difficult to overtake. We'll be discussing a few things today. The news about Pat Simmons, some driver market news, especially involving Audi and Alpine and Haas. And then we'll get into a couple of details from the last race that we found interesting. We normally write a list of bullet points out before we start an episode. And all we've written today is, lol, George.
Ha ha! Weirdo.
That's how we feel. But to start with, I saw an interesting video online that I wanted to discuss with you.
Oh, okay.
So I saw this video of a responsible young man who was driving his car in a safe, controlled, definitely within the speed limit kind of way. And comparing his speed, I guess, to a motorbike who was probably also driving in a safe, controlled, and definitely following the speed limit.
Where did you
And
see
all
this
I could
video?
think, it was posted online on Instagram via
online?
your stories.
On my stories.
Your stories. And
don't
all I could
remember.
think of was if something happened to you, I don't know the password to upload this thing to Spotify. I could get it on YouTube, but no one watches it on YouTube. The majority was Spotify. And I was like, I don't know the password. I would not be able to upload the next episode. So just think about that next time.
Yeah, but I don't think I uploaded anything to Instagram. Did I upload something?
You
to
uploaded some
Instagram?
video of your car being sad against a motorbike, and I clicked on that video and it led me to a series of other ones.
Oh, indeed. Yes, that's what happened. All I will say about that is it's a lot harder to overtake in a high-speed turn than they make it look like in Formula 1. And they make it look so easy.
Yeah. Very good. But yeah, maybe we need a contingency plan.
Everything was safe. Everything was in a controlled environment.
Following the speed limit, you were stopped at one point to help an old lady cross the road as well. I saw that.
That's exactly what happened.
Exactly. 100%. Should we get into the news?
Yes.
So Pat Simmons has joined Andretti F1. So Pat Simmons is currently the Chief Technical Officer at the FIA and has joined this team that has facilities, has staff, maybe even has drivers, has an engine contract, but has no seat at the table when it comes to Formula One. Which, the whole thing is just really, really weird. I don't understand what's happening.
Can I say something that's going to be quite unpopular?
Yeah.
Okay, I already know the hate comments are coming, so who is Pat Simmons?
So Pat Simmons was a engineer that started life a long time ago at Benetton, Renault, and then one day he had this amazing idea. It was 2008.
Okay.
Cast our minds back. It's 2008. It was nighttime. And he was like, hey, Nelson Piquet Jr., I've heard the weird things your dad says. But anyway, Alonso, this is back in the day where there was refueling. So your qualifying pace would be dictated slightly by how much fuel you decide to start the race with.
Okay.
Do you start with a lot and start for the back, or do you start with no fuel? So Alonso started with no fuel and qualified right at the front. It seemed like a silly tactic because normally you'd have to then pit early, but you pit into traffic.
Yeah.
But anyway, he was like, right, I'm going to do this. And just before it was time to pit, Pat Simmons said to Nelson Piquet Jr., why don't you crash into a wall, cause a safety car, and Alonso can win the race? So Nelson Piquet did what Pat Simmons told him and crashed into a wall, and Alonso won the race. Next year, Pat Simmons was found out, fired by Renault, and given a lifetime ban by Formula One.
Wow.
Him and the other guy that were kicked out, Flavio Briatore, then argued they admitted to the thing. Pat Simmons said something like the greatest shame of my life or something, to put a driver at risk of killing himself. But they then sued Formula One on random technicalities, like they didn't have full access to the witness, certain things, time scales were not met during the court case, blah blah blah, and they both got €5,000 back or something, and their lifetime ban was overturned.
What?
And turned into like a 10-year ban or something. It's like 10 years later, he joins as a consultant to Manor Racing, Virgin Racing, which like got a ticket into Formula One and then went bankrupt. And then he got a seat at the table of Sky F1, presented there. And then he joined Williams as chief technical officer before leaving there and joining the FIA. So the FIA were like, you're a big cheat. Why don't you come help us make the regulations so that we can work out how someone like you would try and break these rules? If you write the rules, we already know they're cheat-proof because you wrote them. And now he has joined Andretti F1 to help Andretti join Formula One.
But what is like the paddock opinion of him? Do they like him?
I can't work it out. He seems respected, but I'm also like, this guy. Do you know what I wonder? I'm not sure. Maybe I'm just like thinking, but sometimes you'll have like a consultant at work, or you'll call them an attending, and they're really good at their job, right?
Yeah.
And like patients like them, the staff likes them, but you find out that they like cheated on their wife and like left their kids.
But they're good at their job or something.
I think it's that sort of thing is going on with this guy.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean?
But like, okay, but imagine like, because that directly resulted in his impact at work, right? Like,
yeah.
I guess it's like, I don't know. Do they have short memories on the paddock? Are there only like 30 people in the world that can do these jobs, and they need one of them to do it? It
makes sense from the FIA point of view, because they're like, we need someone to come write the rules.
Yeah.
You're a big cheat. Like, it's like, those films where the cops go and they get like when The Rock got Vin Diesel and Paul Walker to come help him find Hobbs or Shaw, whichever one it was.
Yeah. Like a white hat.
What was it? Sometimes you got to have wolves to chase wolves or something?
I don't know. Sometimes you need to have family to chase family. But
yeah.
like a white hat. I get that. It's just that's so interesting. So now he's been brought over to Andretti. So is Andretti like putting together the B tier dream team to make this work? They've got like an engine manufacturer. They've got like
the whole thing with Andretti is really interesting. I think Andretti should be allowed into Formula One. I think it would be good for Formula One. More drivers have seats. Overall, I think it's a good thing. But the way they're going about it is real interesting. FIA is like, no, we don't think you should be here. You don't have an engine deal. We've got an engine deal with Renault. Yeah, but you don't have a long-term deal. Okay, we got one with Cadillac. You don't have facilities. Look at our new facilities. You don't have staff. Look at all our staff. Like, they just keep... But the way they're going about it is like, like you're trying to ask someone out and they're like, no, not interested. And so you decide to move into their house. And you're like, I live on the couch now. I'll make you dinner tonight. Don't worry about it. And it's like, the whole thing is bizarre. I don't know how it's going to turn out.
I know it's like you're trying to make plans with someone and you're like, hey, do you want to go out on Saturday? And they're like, oh, I'm busy Saturday. Okay, what about Sunday? No, I've got practice Sunday morning. Okay, we'll do it Sunday afternoon. It's just like they're not getting the hint. But I don't understand why. Like, I know other team has had to jump through such hoops before. Like, it's
so the last 3 new teams joined and went bankrupt.
Not Haas.
And the whole. Well, not no way. Okay, not Haas, but the whole new setup is designed around everybody gets prize money. Everybody should be sustainable as a business.
Yeah,
which is why they're worth so much more now, because you can't go bankrupt. Yeah. It's this whole franchise model that they brought from the USA.
Yeah.
Whereas before, top 10 teams got paid, 11, 12, 13. Yeah. You don't get paid, you lose money. It's your problem.
Yeah.
And so people used to come into Formula One all the time, go bankrupt and leave.
Yeah.
But because now everybody has to be taken care of, that means that you get a share of the pie that is due for Ferrari and McLaren and everyone else. So now all the other teams are a bit like, we don't want to share with new people. That's the problem.
Yeah, I guess that's why it's frustrating though. Andretti were to come in and like really smash it out of the park. Also, like it really tells you how dedicated they are to coming. Because if somebody told me
Yeah.
I don't want you this many times, it would destroy
Yeah,
me. I
I
would be
know.
crying on the floor. I would be like,
Yeah, I don't get
"Ah!"
it. Like the resolve must be so strong.
I know. Yeah, seriously. Okay, so that's Pat Simmons. He's been brought into Andretti to help them break the rules,
Yeah,
Vin Diesel style. Let's go.
exactly.
Yes.
But the other thing I want to talk about was the driver market. So we know Bottas seemed to have a 15-minute meeting at Williams
Yeah.
over the course of the Grand Prix.
Yeah.
And there's lots of chat about where do we think he's going to end up next year.
Yeah.
Is he going to be? It seems like Sauber doesn't want him,
Yeah.
right? They've already paid for Hulkenberg. They want
Mhm.
Carlos Sainz. If they don't got Carlos Sainz, they want Esteban Ocon.
Mhm.
If they don't get Esteban Ocon, they want Gasly.
Mhm.
And somehow Bottas isn't even like in the top five choices for his own team right now.
Yeah.
But I was reading an article on the race about him, and they were like, actually, he's well regarded. Like people know he's not the best driver
Hmm.
in F1, but he's far off the worst. Like he has won races. He was able to, you know, be close-ish to Lewis Hamilton,
Yeah.
respectable enough to be a P2 driver, like a
Yeah.
number two driver, not like completely blown away by Lewis and
Mhm.
wasting the car, right?
Mhm.
And Bottas is looking for like a multi-year deal. He thinks like he wants to be part of a project. He wants to be respected. He feels that at Sauber he's been the team player. He's helped
Mhm.
Joe. Um, he's done what's right for the team, but he feels like the team's not really respecting him back right now. So where do
Mhm.
you think he will end
I,
up?
I don't know how to rate Valtteri Bottas or Joe
Yeah,
Valtteri
it's
for that
confusing,
matter.
right?
Because, you look at his early time at Williams, and yes, he was good and he was on podiums, and I wouldn't say he was a bad driver. He was excellent, but at the same time, the Williams had that Mercedes engine, and they were able to skyrocket to the front of the field just because they've got that engine. And so you think Bottas is warranted to get the second seat at Mercedes. And then at Mercedes, I would certainly say he was more. I think he did better than Perez is doing right now at Red Bull. He always was there right with Lewis. He was always on the podium when it needed, although he typically, started poorly, but then he would make it up, and you didn't often see him like, P1 Lewis, P10 Valtteri. There was never a huge divide. Like, they kept it close. They won constructors championships together. He helped them win. And you feel this like, okay, he wasn't the future. That's why he left, and that's why George Russell came in. And I always thought he would go to Alfa Romeo for a couple years and then retire. And I'm sure that was
That's
going
what
to
I
be his
thought.
future.
Yeah,
And I thought, he's kind of done the best he can do. He's won races. He's been on pole. Blah blah blah. But he's actually not been bad at Alpha. Like
yeah.
he hasn't been destroyed by Zhou Guanyu. But Zhou at the same time hasn't destroyed Valtteri either. So it's tough for me to look at. Like Zhou has been decently good for a
Mm,
midfield team, but so is Valtteri. Like they're a good
mm,
pair. And even if you move him to Williams, and it's him and Alex Albon at Williams, I think you see Williams score many more points. I see
yeah,
like Williams maybe scoring every single race because whenever Albon can't, maybe Valtteri is. So I
yeah.
think it's worth it for him to stay in Formula One if he still has the skill. Um, but then that puts into question like, what about people like Joe? Is he going to stay in Audi with Carlos Sainz? Like how much longer is he in the
No.
sport?
So Joe is either out or uh, going to Alpine, I think, because he was an Alpine junior driver.
Oh
They didn't have a seat available. It was that
yeah,
whole Piastri fiasco. But if
fiasco.
Esteban Ocon leaves,
Yeah,
so Alpine's choices right now are Bottas, who he's sort of having conversations with,
yeah,
Zhou. You could be in a weird situation where Alpine have Zhou and Bottas, but anyway.
yeah,
Mick Schumacher is in conversation with Alpine because he drives for their World Endurance Championship team.
yeah.
And then their junior driver, Jack Doohan.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Alpine's potentially in a position where, they're struggling with their car this year. They're going to make less prize money, and having like Zhou's Chinese sponsorship money, having mixed German sponsorship money, these things may be a factor in how they decide who their drivers are.
Yeah, maybe. I definitely see that as a possibility. Alpine is interesting because they're looking to get rid of Esteban too. I really don't know what their plan is. They're like a team that is like constantly imploding. They've been imploding ever since Ricardo left. Like they've just I don't think they've had a moment of stability. Even when Fernando was there, do you remember how often that car was breaking down? It was quite incredible. So
Oh yeah, I
yeah,
forgot about that.
yeah, it was like every race. But so Joe going to Alpine, okay, maybe, and then that opens a spot at Alpha. I don't know what to make of any of these midfield teams. Like, a while ago we were trying to determine, do we have the best class of Formula One drivers ever right now?
Mm.
And I used to think maybe we do, but now I'm looking at some of these drivers and I don't know how I'd rate them. Now that I have also been in a high speed race, and I could clearly say I have the expertise to comment on it, they're all bad. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to work out where Sainz goes because apparently the Mercedes deal is looking less and less likely.
Yeah, because they only want
But
1 year,
Kimi
as you
being
mentioned.
promoted is looking less and less likely. So who's going in the second Mercedes?
Yeah, wait, hold on. Before we get there, what happened with Kimmy? I feel like I blinked or like I sneezed, and then all of a sudden he went from absolutely in the Mercedes next year to we're gonna hold off, and then Toto Wolff is going out and saying that, oh yeah, I think we rushed him a little bit. Well, did he like have a test and he sucked?
So apparently he was good in the tests. I
Yeah.
think, I don't know, something is making them go, this guy needs more time. And I wonder if it's, all the other stuff that you need to be able to do. Um, like how to lead team meetings, how
Hmm.
to feedback to engineers, how to develop a car,
Yeah.
how to work as part of a bigger organization, how to do the
Yeah.
corporate stuff.
Yeah.
Like he's only 17, right? um, that's why they usually send these drivers away to Williams, because there's less of that responsibility and
Hmm.
they can just focus on the driving side. It's a bit like any job, like when you start in a job you
Hmm.
kind of just do the job thing, but then
Hmm.
as you progress up, you start taking on leadership roles, management roles, all that other kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And I think it would be a lot to ask a 17-year-old
Yeah,
to suddenly
definitely.
be doing all those other
I
things
mean,
as
I
well.
agree with them. I don't think I don't think you should rush him into it.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that the tone shifted so crazily, because I think he needs a year in F2, or like he skipped F3. He needed a year in either one. You want to do the Verstappen route and do a year in F3, skip F2, fine, but you need a year
Mm.
in one of the support series. It reminds me like when we were talking to Bianca, and when she first raced in W Series, she was talking about just the like technicalities of racing that they don't teach you when you're karting, like just like random stuff,
Mm.
like getting ready for the car for the day, then going over the telemetry, like random stuff like that. She's like, I'm learning how to do that. I agree with you. He needs to learn some of the like. I think he just needs to be in the environment for a year, and also we need to see him.
Mm.
He needs to prove himself. Oscar Piastri was the last guy. He won F3. He won F2. Everyone was so excited. He came into the sport, and he's good for sure. And I think he's definitely
Yeah.
deserves to see. We need to see Kimi Antonelli prove himself. So I agree with them. Who gets the other seat at Mercedes? Yeah, that's something wild. I mean, I really
Because
don't
they
know.
keep saying, oh, it's looking less likely that Sainz will get Red Bull or Mercedes.
Yeah,
And I'm like, okay, if Sainz isn't getting the Mercedes seat
who goes
and
there?
Kimi's not getting the Mercedes
Yeah,
seat, then who's getting the Mercedes seat?
Max Verstappen.
Hmm. Doubt.
I don't know. I saw something else recently. I saw somebody say something recently about Max maybe being re-evaluated for that seat, but I don't think so. I think he is really unimpressed with the Mercedes, and as is the entire world. Nobody's impressed
Hmm.
with them right now. Cover up my logos, my emblems.
Yeah.
How dare I don't know. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna guess Esteban takes the seat. I mean, he's a solid second driver. Give him a year contract.
Hmm.
I don't know.
That
Maybe
makes
go
sense.
for it. That's the only thing I can think of, and I don't think they bring Mick Schumacher back in, which is quite
No.
hilarious.
I think Mick potentially could have something with Alpine, if he's impressed in the World Endurance Championship
Yeah.
with that out of car stuff.
Hmm.
But I don't think he'll get the Mercedes seat. Ocon makes sense. Um, I
Does
wanted
Mick
Sainz to get the Red Bull
Schumacher?
seat.
Huh? You
I
want?
wanted Sainz to get the
Oh
Red Bull
yeah.
seat. I thought Perez at Haas
Hmm.
and Sainz at Red Bull makes the most sense to me.
Perez. I feel so bad for him. I don't think he's a bad driver. I really don't. I just think that he's like struggling in this setup, a bit like Daniel Ricciardo at McLaren. I fear that he's going to leave the environment and get worse because he's now forgotten how to drive in the way that made him good. You know, this is still somebody who went from last to first in the pink. I forgot what the team was called, Force India or whatever, Racing Point.
Yeah, Racing Point.
Change their names as often as like Pearson Spector, but you know, I feel for him, but I agree it makes sense to keep him right now at Red Bull, unless the championship gets close and they need points to fight for first, then that's going to get really tough. Then I mean, even in this race, people were saying that he qualified out of position. I mean, this Imola was like, what the hell was this track? I know you called it a motorcycle track. Like
it is a motorcycle track.
I know, yeah. Nobody could overtake. Like it was like the most frustrating race ever. Should we just get? Let's get to the race.
Let's get into it.
Talking about driver market, but I need to talk about this race.
Yeah.
What was this, man? Oh my god! So first of all, for the first time ever, Red Bull looked weak in qualifying form, and I was extremely excited. I saw a tweet that said Mercedes was third fastest, just ahead of Red Bull, and it didn't make sense to me. I thought it was a typo or something. I had to go back and read it. I was like, what do you mean third fastest ahead of Red Bull? I don't understand what you're saying right now. Are you telling me they were fourth fastest? But, of course, by qualifying, they get their act together. It takes all the fun out of that. And then, essentially, this race is all about track position. You know, I know it's historic, but either these are the tracks that need to get dropped. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
These are the tracks. The ones that are like this, I would even argue maybe Hungary, too. Like the ones where you cannot overtake on, the ones that make the racing just so abysmal. Like, what was the difference between this and a street circuit? You know what I mean? We hate street circuits for the same reason. So, what did you make of the race?
Yeah, I think so. I think what was nice was the whole thing that they did with Vettel at the beginning, where he had Senna's car. You see all these people on the internet being like, oh, why are they letting Vettel drive that car? Why is Vettel the chosen one? Blah, blah, blah. He was no good at the end. And it's like, because it's his money and he owns that car now. He bought it. But anyway, I like that little thing for Senna and Ratzenberger because obviously it's been 30 years and he flew those two flags. Yeah. And then after that, because that's the thing, there's historic significance and I think there's ways of honouring history. Like, we talked about the Monaco historic race and things like that. I don't think you have to let go of Formula One history, but the cars now are just too big and these circuits are not right for these cars. And it makes something that potentially could be quite exciting very dull all of a sudden.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what to say. I don't want...
The only entertainment in the entire race was when George Russell was like, but if I pit, will Lewis give me the position back? And they're like, no, you'll be like 10 seconds behind him.
So cringe.
But then why would I pit? Because you've gone through your tires and you're not going to get to the end. And he's like, oh.
No, and then he followed that up by saying, okay, so if I pit, can Lewis then give me the position back? And then they were like, no. Okay, now pit. George Manager. And then it's so cringy. I don't know what this guy, it's so funny if you look at the attitude of George and just compare it to Lewis. Like, Lewis clearly is like, when you're in college and you're right at the end of the year. And
senioritis.
Yes, out. Exactly.
He's having such a good time.
Yes, he doesn't care where he qualifies. He doesn't care how the race goes. He could have the worst qualifying ever. And when you go talk to him, he's like out in P2. He's like, yeah, that was great. I had a great time. Where did I qualify? 12th? It's okay. I don't care. Woo, let's go.
Yeah.
So, and
George, he looks so light and so happy.
Like, he literally does not care. And George cares so much about everything, finishing position. I think he knows. The narrative is that he has not beat Lewis, even though if you take certain metrics and make it look like, qualifying head-to-head, blah, 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 it'll look like maybe he did. But I think he knows that he's had all this time to beat Lewis, and he hasn't beat Lewis, and I think he's just very cognizant of that fact. But it doesn't even matter, because Lewis is going to leave, and then he's going to have a new partner. And I don't know. It's just so funny to me. It couldn't have happened to a worse person, but he really, really wanted to hop in the Mercedes and just have all these wins. And as soon as he hopped in the Mercedes, they got slow.
Oh,
Amazing, beautiful. He's been on pole once, I think, and he's run a race, and that's all he has to his name. So hilarious.
yeah. I don't know about the sprints. I forget all the sprint statistics because it's a
No, I don't think
pointless
he's.
race.
I don't think he's won anything in a sprint. Do you remember
But I think he had
how
a pole on a sprint. I think maybe.
who?
I think he had a pole position on a
Oh,
sprint.
maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. Actually, he did in Brazil. That's true. Do you remember in the olden days when his like big moniker was how he just could never get in the points, and everybody wanted for
Yeah.
him to get in the points?
Yeah. No, it's the same with wins.
I know. Well, yeah. I mean, it's just like it's so cringe, man. It's like you have to realize you're on the mic at this point. Like you need to stop talking, my man. You cannot be saying things like that out loud. Does Lewis like imagine he was competitive? This would have completely destroyed the team dynamics because he's gonna know about this when they get to the team briefings and stuff. He's gonna hear about it and he's gonna be like,
Yeah.
"What my teammate is like such an ass, such a bad guy."
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I really don't like George, and I'm going to be very excited for when I don't have to root for him even more
Yeah.
marginally. You know,
Be so good.
2025. Did you see the video with them at the track? And it's like Lewis is on the scooter. First of all, everybody is doing some kind of like physical activity. So like Vettel is running, Valtteri is on
Yeah.
like his speed bike, his pro bike. Charles Leclerc is on like
Mm.
a casual bicycle, and then like a bunch of people are jogging, and Lewis is on a electric scooter. And Seb asks him like, "Why are you on the scooter?" And he's like, "Oh, I can't run this. When you get to my age, you'll understand." Like A, they're not the same age, and B, like he's not a world class athlete that already we know
Yeah.
goes on runs and could probably easily run the Imola Grand Prix or the Imola
Yeah.
track
Yeah.
circuit,
Yeah.
whatever. But he's on the scooter instead. And as he's going, he's talking to Charles Leclerc like they're just like chatting together,
Mm.
and behind them, like a third wheel, is George Russell. It's so funny. He's behind him like a third wheel, and the camera like pans to him, and he goes, "Oh, that's Ferrari." Like looking at both of them. Um, but it's just so funny. It's
I
so
need to
funny.
see.
It's like
Yeah, I've not seen this. If you
it's
find it, send it to me.
yeah, I'll send it to you. It's on the Formula One official channel, but it's so funny because it's like you could just tell he's like so frustrated with how things have turned out. Lewis
Mm.
escaped. First of all, Lewis worked so hard to fix the team. What did George bring
Yeah.
to that conversation? Like nothing. He was just trying to bring his stats up. He was trying to stat pack, right? Like get the fastest position, get the higher place, like whatever, do whatever he could do. And then like they couldn't fix the team, and now Lewis is leaving to clearly the faster team, and George is stuck in this team.
Mm.
And then he had to deal with the notion that Max might be his teammate, and that probably absolutely destroyed him. Yeah, this guy is it's hilarious. I'm really it's oh my god, what a guy, George Russell.
So good. I love it. It makes
Yeah.
me happy. How did you find Norris's performance? I suppose that's the other story of the race.
I I don't know why so many people were impressed by it. I think it was a strong performance from a second fastest team. McLaren was
Mm.
clearly the second fastest team. I think it was good for him to put those laps in at the end and really challenge Max. I think the Red Bull struggled this weekend, and in any other situation, he might have challenged for the win, and we would have been like, "Oh wow, look, the second fastest team beat the first fastest team because the first fastest team, their tires went out or something," which is a pretty common narrative in a race. However, if you're
Mm.
going up against Max Verstappen, you cannot take that approach. You can't take the approach Lando
Mm.
did. And it makes me happy that Lewis is still in the sport because I don't know anyone who could challenge Max. All of them, when they go up against Max, make mistakes at crucial times. The big one,
Mm.
Charles Leclerc, when he was literally fighting for the championship, mistakes at crucial moments that cost him the championship. You go even look at George Russell, mistakes at
Mm.
crucial times. He's not able to. Mistakes any single time he's under pressure. There's a mistake. And Lando Norris is the same too because when he's chasing Verstappen, you have to put in perfect lap after perfect lap to catch Verstappen and pass him. It's possible.
Mm.
The person who's done this in the past is Lewis Hamilton. He did it in Bahrain in 2021. He put in banger lap after banger lap, no mistakes, did not do anything wrong, caught Verstappen and passed him. So you know it's possible, but Norris cannot make mistakes like that if he's going to go up
Mm.
against. I'm not going to credit the performance at the end. I'm personally not impressed. you were in a position where you could have won. You can't say I needed 2 extra laps. You're the one who made the mistakes. You lost 0.6 of a second at a very crucial moment when you're about to get into DRS. We've seen Lewis in situations like that when he needs to get into a certain time frame. We've seen him get into that time frame, do the crazy dives, whatever it may be, to get there. And Lando didn't do that. So everybody else was excited. I agree it was exciting to think maybe he's going to... But as soon as he started making mistakes, I knew it was over. He's not going to challenge Max. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. I think there was a quote from the race, though, that said, last year, if you'd said to Lando, what do you need? He would have wanted a whole new car.
Yeah.
Whereas now when you ask him, what do you need? He asked for one more lap.
Yeah, I don't
think... It just shows that the other teams are catching Red Bull. So yes, regardless of Norris, whatever you think of him, I think the fact that the other teams are catching is a good thing.
I certainly don't think the Red Bull is as dominant this year as it was last year. I definitely think we can show up to a track now and maybe they're not going to win everything. That being said, they have still continued to win everything. So it's not like it's over. But
They'll win the championship, but they might not win every race.
Yeah. I think, it reminds me, what was I going to say? It's what Christian Horner said, I think, at the beginning of the year, where he said that the Red Bull has run out of avenues to improve. Whatever they get now is going to be small gains, which means the other teams are going to catch up, which always happens in Formula One. At a certain point, the dominant team runs out of place to expand on, and people start to catch up. So we just see that's happening now, which gives us hope for next year before the regulation change, that they really have run out of options. And that this is the time. So I definitely think that this year in general, it's possible for Red Bull to show up and not be the absolute best. But then again, they still have Max Verstappen, and he's going to be the difference maker in these situations, and he's the one that's going to pull out the race win.
True.
Yes.
Predictions for Monaco?
I won't be watching it. Max Verstappen.
Oh yes. So Monaco, we're going to play a game. I'll watch it, and I'll say to you, we're going to play two truths, one lie next week. And I'll tell you a series of things, and you have to try and work out what actually happened or didn't happen.
Yes, I'm going to be very excited to do that because I fully do not intend on watching this race, although I will probably watch qualifying. And I'm going to be very excited to not watch it.
Yeah.
Goodbye, Monaco!
Just to be clear, this isn't some sort of protest. You're at a family event. That's why.
Yes. Yeah, I'm at a family event. Yeah. I forgot. I never mentioned that. People might think that I was actually out of anger and not watching.
Just not watching out of anger. Yeah.
That's not what happened. Yeah. No, I'm gonna be busy that weekend, and I won't be able to watch it. And normally in other circumstances, if it was a more important race, if the championship is on the line, I would have just made time to watch it. But I have no intention of doing that.
There's those photos of me at my sister's wedding watching the race on my phone.
It's a video, and you look very stressed. It's like the camera pans, and it's just you. You're like, it's quite funny. But yeah, I'm very excited for 2025. I think the rest of the world is excited for 2025. I think it's only a matter of time now before they announce Adrian Newey is at Ferrari. I'm very excited to get Ferrari merchandise. I'm very excited to root for Lewis Hamilton. Oh my God. Last thing before we close this episode out. Did you see the video that Mercedes put up? And it says, "Thank you for all the support." Have you seen this video?
No.
So Mercedes put out a video after Imola, and it says, "Thank you, Italy, for all your support." And it's a shot of Lewis Hamilton, and he's waving at the crowd, and the camera pans, and it's a bunch of Ferrari fans cheering him on. And I don't know what Mercedes thought they were doing posting this. They are clearly not showing support for Mercedes. They're obviously showing support to Lewis, who they've embraced as their next driver. And they're all cheering. There's not a single Mercedes merchandise in the audience. Now, in contrast, Lewis put up a picture on his Instagram, and it's the same thing, the crowd cheering for him, but this time it's like people wearing Mercedes hats. And I don't know what they were thinking. Mercedes admin posting this video, which is clearly not support for Mercedes at all, but support for Lewis Hamilton.
Incredible.
Yes.
Maybe they thought they could AI some Mercedes hats in later.
Yeah, well, they forgot, and then they posted it, and it just looks super embarrassing. It's always funny, like, when the admin is not in tune with the rest of, like, Formula One Twitter,
Yeah.
and then they, like, post things, like, like, when everybody was looking for, did Lewis sign with Ferrari? Did Lewis sign with Ferrari? And then, like, Mercedes posts, and it's, like, celebrating the 75th anniversary of
Yeah.
introducing seatbelts to our cars.
Yeah.
And everyone's
Yeah.
like, that's not what we want! Give us what we want! So, yeah, it's quite funny.
Good times. Right.
Indeed.
You have fun. Thank you, everyone, for listening and maybe watching if some of you are on YouTube.
We try to keep
we
this
shall see you.
episode like the race. We try to be, monotone and normal, and then get really exciting at the end, but then nothing
Really
changes.
exciting. I'm so tired. I can't be exciting. It's very late, and I have to be at work early in the morning.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, guys. Bye. See you after Monaco.
Bye.